Here in this video, we will go over everything you need to know on AMC stock today. AMC stock is down 2.55% at the time of recording this video. We will also cover what's going on in our broader markets today because AMC stock is not the only stock that is doing poorly. If you take a look at IWM, that's down almost 1%, and the S&P 500 is also slightly in the red today. So what's going on and what do you need to know? Let's get into it. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and let's get started. So AMC stock down about 2.55%. Not a great day for AMC. It continues to not be a great day for AMC. It seems like most days are not great days for AMC. When it comes down to it, if you really want to bottom line this, why AMC is so much weaker than most stocks, than your broader markets, you can boil this down to dilution fears, right? There's still this overarching fear of dilution. Now, when you see the market dynamic change and you see money go into small and mid-cap stocks, when you start to see this $6.2 trillion in money market funds get deployed back into our markets, I think AMC stock will perform better relative to how it is now in the broader markets, right? If IWM is down, say, 0.5%, pretty close to where it is today, AMC stock's down 2.5%, that's a 5 times underperformance. And on good days, AMC stock is not 5 times outperforming the IWM. When liquidity comes back in our markets, when cash comes back into our markets to start buying stocks again, I do think you might start to see AMC stock at least perform better. Maybe instead of 5x underperforming and not quite 5x outperforming, you might start to see AMC like underperforming by 2x, right? And outperforming maybe by like 2x. That would be just a rough, estimation or estimate of what could happen, okay? But right now, AMC stock is underperforming, and I think it's going to for a while until we get clarity from Adam Aron how much dilution we're expecting in 2024, if we're going to get a commitment to not dilute shareholders or not. I think shorts are on the sidelines just waiting for that announcement. I think the bulls are also waiting for some kind of announcement along those lines. And the longer he waits to give us that announcement, the lower AMC stock could go in the meantime. Now, with that being said, let's take a look here at the Ortex data, knock this out first things first. What's actually interesting today is the option activity in AMC. The option activity in AMC is pretty negative relative to what we typically see. Yesterday, for an example, AMC stock was in the red. Option activity was almost 80% to the call side and 20% to the put side. Today, 46.72% to the call side, 53.28% to the put side. So recently, it's been pretty rare that you have seen the puts have higher volume than calls, but that's actually happening today. So it really makes me scratch my head to what exactly is going on here. So we'll have to wait and see. Does that mean bad news is coming? Not necessarily. Could it? Yes. And bad news would obviously be dilution for AMC stock. Now, if you take a look at the option activity from hedge funds and institutions today, you have only seen 2 orders totaling $63.87 thousand with a positive order value of 0%. So it looks like quite a bit of this negative option activity today is from retail investors, which I think that is pretty interesting to say the least. Now, if we take a look here at the short interest data, you can see numbers dropping here a little bit. I don't think these numbers are correct. I think AMC stock is hundreds of percent sold short. Let's be honest there. That's just my personal opinion. That's what I think. But, who knows when it comes down to it. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Now, you do have a short interest percentage of free float at 7.95%. $105.4 million worth of short positions currently in AMC stock. Days to cover sitting at about 1. About 20 million shares currently sold short. Shares out on loan, 15.22 million. Cost to borrow, 1.08%. Utilization of 29.11%. And a short score of 51.93 out of 100. So, yeah, it's definitely not looking that great over here per Ortex. If you take a look at the cost to borrow fees as well, Cost to borrow max at about 2%, cost to borrow average 1.33%, cost to borrow minimum 1.04%. So just not the most strong numbers that we have seen in the past. Not very squeezable numbers. If you believe these numbers, then personal opinion, I wouldn't be in this trade for a potential short squeeze in AMC, or even a potential rally for that fact, with all of the dilution. The reason I'm still in this trade, the reason why I'm constructive on AMC, is I believe Adam Aron will do the right thing. He has no choice. It's not whether he wants to or not. He has no choice but to give us an announcement that he will not dilute shareholders, because they need to get AMC stock higher, not so you make money, not so they make money, but so they can sell stock at higher prices and avoid bankruptcy. Simple mathematics here. If AMC stock stays at $5 per share, I've said it before and I'll say it again, AMC stock will go bankrupt. Ultimately, it'll take some time, it'll take some years, but AMC stock will ultimately go bankrupt. So that's not exactly something I think Adam Aron wants to do. So unfortunately for him, he does have to give a commitment to shareholders that he will not dilute us for a period of time to get AMC stock higher. That's the only lever that they can actually pull, to get AMC stock higher, when they've been diluting shareholders for so long. What's actually interesting, regardless of what's kind of been happening with AMC recently, the fact that we're sitting at a little bit above $5 per share, $5.16 per share, getting pretty close to going into the fours. Sentiment today is actually pretty bullish at 69, and message volume is at 47, which is considered normal, and message volume or sentiment at 69 is on the bullish side. Not quite extremely bullish, but pretty dang close. I believe over 75 is considered extremely bullish. So you're actually seeing some pretty good numbers over here from retail investors. That's why it kind of makes me wonder what in the world is going on with the Ortex data and the option activity today. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, if I'm to be totally honest with you guys. Now, percentage of stocks above their 50-day moving average down about 3.31% today. A lot of stocks are getting beaten down, not just AMC. You are now sitting at 76.55% of stocks above their 50-day moving average. That's about where you were during the highs of the July rally. So if we start to, continue to break down here, seeing stocks, continue to fall under their 50-day moving average, you're going to be getting back into kind of a more normal zone. Whenever you're this high, like 85 or 90, where we just were, you're vulnerable for a pullback to some degree in our markets. Now, if we take a look at what's going on with 10-year Treasury yields today, 10-year Treasury yields did spike in the beginning of the trading day, and they are starting to come down. Really, for no rhyme or reason. There's not too much that is actually going on today, but now 10-year Treasury yields are basically flat, and you were up like 5 basis points at one point earlier today. 10-year treasuries were at 4.05%. They are sitting right at about 4% flat right now. So you have gotten a little bit of a boost in the markets from the lows, but really not too much has actually changed today. We haven't gotten anything for real economic data. We did have Michael Barr speak. He is with the Fed in San Francisco. Nothing really came out of that one. Now, we are seeing a bull steepening. This is actually bad news, though, for stock prices, because whenever you start to uninvert here on this chart, that's typically when you have gotten sell-offs in the market. So you are starting to uninvert a little bit more. It's a slow process. You're still inverted 35 basis points, but as you get less inverted, stocks will likely fall, because that means you're could be getting closer to a recession for whatever reason or another. So that is definitely taking place today. If you take a look at the Atlanta Fed GDP Now tracker, GDP is currently being estimated at 2.2%, so pretty strong growth still. And again, we want to avoid a recession at all costs, so to see that number at 2.2% is great news. Now, for March, you are seeing the odds of a rate cut falling, which I think is actually good news as well, because if consensus, what I've been hearing from analysts and from investors, from the Fed itself, they're not thinking about cutting rates in March, but the markets are pricing this in. So if we can unprice in a rate cut in March and not see stocks fall, that's great news, right? To kind of ease into not pricing in a rate cut without substantial downturn in the markets, I'll take that any day. That's great news. A lot of Fed officials are, saying the economy is stronger than, what maybe we need to see rate cuts, which is actually good news as well. I think that puts a lot more emphasis on the inflation report that will be coming out on Thursday, because if inflation's falling faster than expected, the Fed can cut rates more than they're expecting. And that ultimately means we could get a couple rate cuts in 2024 and no recession. That's what you want to see. 6 rate cuts is almost implying some weakness for the economy, which is not going to be good for stocks. So we definitely want to be watching that pretty closely. Markets are still pricing in 6 rate cuts for 2024, although the odds have dropped from yesterday at 38.7% until today at 36.3%. So odds are down about 2.4% that we will get 6 rate cuts in 2024. The odds of 5 rate cuts are increasing now to 29.2% from last week of 21.2%. So 5 rate cuts getting more, more normal, if you will. You could see 5 rate cuts theoretically if inflation just falls faster than expected, just to stay at kind of a slightly restrictive Fed policy. Because if inflation falls and rates stay high, then you're really restrictive on the economy, right? The Fed don't want to be really restrictive on the economy. They just want to be semi-restrictive on the economy. So as inflation falls, the Fed funds rate can come down regardless of what's going on in the economy, regardless of people losing their jobs, keeping their jobs, or whatever else have you that is happening elsewhere in the economy. So I think all of this is very important. Now, the latest AI investor sentiment survey that we did get shows the bulls still in control at 48.6% bulls, 27.9% neutral, and 23.5% bearish. We're going to get a new survey coming out here, I believe, tomorrow, if not on Thursday. And if you do, I should say, when you get the survey, you're probably going to see the bears pick up quite a bit, which should actually be some good news for stocks as well. Typically, when the bulls are at these super high levels, that usually sets you up for a downside move. I expect the bears are probably going to jump to 27, 28, 29%. And that is, what I would expect to be some good news, at least here in the short term for our markets. Again, CPI report comes out on Thursday. For Wednesday, not going to get too much either. Some bond auctions here and there. Fed Williams that will speak at 3:15, but tomorrow could be another pretty slow day. You do have a 10-year bond auction. That could be the most volatile event. And I think 2024 is just setting up to be a volatile year in and of itself. I think we have to, come to accept the fact that it's going to be volatile. Stocks are not going to go up in a straight line. They're not going to go down in a straight line. We really want more clarity on how the economy is, how inflation is going. If inflation continues to fall, that's the key. I think stocks will do well. I think this year is all about inflation, and I think right now it's a safer bet to say inflation is falling faster than expected rather than to say inflation is reaccelerating, right? If we see a reacceleration in inflation, you're going to see some big downside in stocks. I just don't think that is happening as of right now. AMC stock, the RSI at 26.74, and the MACD is pretty much doing nothing, pretty neutral if I would say so myself. So let me know what you think about all of this information down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.